Ross Hardy with InkJetCarts technical support, and we're here to show startup filling instructions for the Canon refillable cartridges, of which there are many types and many different models for many different printers. They can vary in size, colors, and what chips are on them. However, they have the exact same interior components. Each will have a fill plug and a reservoir. And that would be a keynote, the fill plug and the reservoir. They also have a sponge side, and they also have a cover that needs to be removed over the airport side. The airport side of this cartridge needs to be vented, well vented. And the fill port plug, you cannot use this cartridge. You cannot even remove this bottom orange collar until that fill plug is in. Now, uncapping the cartridge is such that you will then see the sponge pad exit, and you will also see there is a silicone seal. Make sure that you retain this. You cannot refill this cartridge properly without excessive dripping without this cap. And I usually just put them in an old Chinese food bowl and rinse them out in that bowl to keep them clean. And then they're universal except for the white blacks. You merely slip it in with and then press it down until it locks, making sure the silicone seal is in. And then, of course, you can pull your fill plug and refill it. Now, first of all, we are going to be refilling a 225, or excuse me, a 220 cartridge. But there's some prep work to do first. Now, the first thing you would want to do is leave your reservoir plug in, pull that tape strip. Now, we provide sharp needles. If you just start filling over here, it's going to take forever for this sponge to pick up all the ink. I'll demonstrate that. And also, hitting this little air hole is almost impossible. You can do it without drilling the cartridge and fill the sponge side first until it's full and then top off the reservoir side. However, it is much easier to just make yourself a bigger hole. And we provide a hand drill, and as long as you hit that hole perfectly, it's going to be a lot easier in the long run to go ahead and hand drill a hole. Now, I'm going to take that off camera, but that would be a keynote to hand drill the hole with the provided hand drill. So get it started, kind of twist it back and forth a few times like that until you get a nice little divot started, and then it's going to be self-guiding after that. Then just go ahead and turn it sideways, let the debris fall aside. It matters not if you get a little sliver on top of your sponge in there. And then once you're sure that you're through the cartridge, which we are, you might want to go ahead and back it out and turn the drill around a couple of times and remove any of the plastic. Okay? Now, as you can see, with a big hole, you can get your needle in there quite easier. So remember, part of filling the cartridge is leaving the cap collar on. Also, a bigger hole means that if you forget to pull the refill plug, which some people do while they're filling the sponge side, first, you want to pick up a generous amount of ink. You want to hit your hole and go into the sponge, and then go ahead and pull your refill plug. Now, you want to slowly inject the ink into the sponge side. You can turn the cartridge in all directions, making sure that you fully saturate it. And then once you're sure that you have the sponge filled, go ahead and remove from the sponge side and get into the reservoir side and top it up. And that's all there is to it. You might need a paper towel at the next step, And if you overfill a little bit, you can wipe up any excess and get that off. And then you would want to put your refill plug back in first. Very important that the refill plug is back in before this collar comes off. And you may or may not want to protect yourself from any dripping with gloves or anything like that. There might be a little ink in your bottom collar. See that? And you would want to clean that. And then blot the cartridge a couple of times. And then after you're sure it's stable, it's ready to install. We'd prefer you to hold it like this and not squeeze the sides. The sides are more flexible, and if you squeeze the sides of the cartridge, ink's going to come out. So since you're putting in it like this, in most cases in a narrow slot with other cartridges installed, hold it like this and put it straight down. Now, other key points of this cartridge are it's not a Canon cartridge. Now, I've just wiped out my collar of any ink, and I'm going to retain that collar for future use. I'm going to rebottle my ink, put any excess back in it that is left in my syringe, and recap my sharp tip because I don't want anybody to get nicked or cut. Then I'm going to recap my bottle so I don't knock it over. And then last but not least, in some cases, the cartridge fit may or may not allow the chip to read properly all the time. So one thing you would want to do is, some cartridges we provide these seals, and these seals just go on the bottom of the cartridge like that. And that would be a key note to install that. It's going to provide a little resistance when you install it, and it's going to make the cartridge more solid and clip in. You'll also see less wobble. Now, if you lose these silicone seals or never install them, or you didn't get any, there's also the possibility of one more way to make the cartridge sit more firmly, and that would be a roll of duct tape. And just pull off a little, no more than a 1/4 inch or so, 5/16 at the most. And yeah, it looks a little tacky, but you'll notice there's a shelf on the back of this cartridge. I want to hit that shelf and wrap around it so that most of my tape is on top of that shelf. With most of my tape on top of that shelf, it's going to provide a little resistance more as I lock that cartridge in place. And once again, the cartridge will not wobble. You'll have better nozzle checks, you'll have better alignment checks and all of that. Long story short, this is how you handle the Canon refillable cartridges. And once again, when it comes back out for refill, you are going to want to have this cap in place and locked before that fill plug comes out. Now, we'll cover chips in later videos, but at the same time, in a lot of cases, the chips are auto reset. There's many different styles, and they all behave differently. Sometimes you're going to want to use our resetters. Some of them are USB powered, and if they're a standard USB connection cord, we're going to not provide the cord. If they, for instance, the one that connects to your printer, if they're a specialized USB cord, like in the CLI 42s that have a totally different end on them than a standard cord, we're going to provide that cord. And in a lot of cases, we're going to provide instructions on how to use those chip resetters properly. And last but not least, our ARC chips, should they ever fail, you can always use Canon chips on them, and then definitely use a resetter. And you're going to find stability and also the capability to reset at the same time you refill, which means you basically have a new cartridge every time. This is Ross Hardy with InkJetCarts technical support with the Canon refillable cartridges. Thank you for your time.